So hello everyone who are present for the webinar. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Manish from representing Karger publication here in India. Just brief you about the Karger. Karger is a Switzerland-based publishing house. We publish around 120 journals. And recently we have signed the publish and read agreement with MAHE. So we are arranging few webinars for MAHE, especially for MAHE. And this is the first webinar we are arranging for you. With me today are Francisca, who is the customer engagement manager. With me is Nicholas, who is from the publication team, and Nadeem from marketing. So in today's webinar, the topic is empowering the researchers, maximizing the scholarly impact with Karger. For your information, we are recording this session and it will be available to you for the future reference. If you have any question, you can just type it in the chat box. We'll try to give answers within this webinar only. So over to you, Fran. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for joining in today. I am Francesca. As Manish mentioned, I am the customer engagement manager here at Karger. I will start this presentation by showing you some of the services that your institution has kindly provided for you. We're talking about journals access, we're talking about publishing in open access, and we're also talking about educational tools like our campus platform that would allow you to learn how to draft the perfect paper, publish it, and then have a greater impact with your research. Then I will pass on my baton to Nico, the publication manager, who will give you some tips and tricks on how to publish with Karger and also some behind the scene action, so you know what's going on at Karger when we receive your articles. I will start by sharing my screen, hopefully. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully you can all see it. Okay.
This one we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm aware that most of you will not go on a publisher website to find the articles they are looking for. They're usually coming through PubMed or other websites such as that. However, since we have a brand new website with a new interface and you might not be familiar with all the titles that Karger is publishing, as Manish mentioned, we have over 100 titles on our platform. I just want to give you an overlook, an overlook of what you can find and what kind of subject areas we cover. So if we go on our homepage, you can see here a menu with all the services we provide. I will just start by talking about a little bit open access. I don't know how familiar you are with open access, but just let me show you what you can find on our website about this. And just to set the scene and know how familiar you are, I will just like to for you to answer this little poll that will appear on your screen, asking how familiar you are with open access, so that we can adapt the presentation to the level of familiarity. So if you could just answer the poll, that would be great. Okay, we have almost half the votes. If everybody else can answer, otherwise we'll go with what we have. The majority seems to be quite familiar, so know the basics. Some are not very familiar. We'll give it just another second. All right. Thank you everybody for replying. So the majority of people seem to know the basics or not being very familiar with it. So let me just very quickly cover some basics with you. So there's been a change in the publishing world lately. This has been going on for quite a few years, but especially in Europe, it's just picked up pace, and now we're talking about open access all the time. What do we mean with this? Basically, open access allows researchers to publish their research by paying a little fee, but making the article, once it's been published, completely available and readable by everybody. So you don't need a subscription in order to access the article. Usually that was the case everywhere else. So if you want to read a specific article, let's say in Karger journals or in Nature or something like this, you would have to pay for a subscription, either individual, so your own, or at institutional level. So your university would have to pay for a subscription. Now, moving towards open access, the price is put on the article and not on the subscription. We are working with your institution, so they are covering both the price of subscription and some of the publishing costs behind open access. So you're lucky enough to be able to read everything you want with Karger and also publish open access in the same journals. That's what we call a transformative agreement. So if you go on our open access page, you can see here a few information about open access, what we mean by open access, what type of open access we have, because there's more than one. And I would really recommend to go here and see with the handy explainer file that you can open and download and keep for yourself, or share with your colleagues. And it's very handy because it's quickly explained the type of open access that we are working with, and you'll find with other publishers. So these are standard version of open access you'll find with other publishers as well. So the main two we'll go cover today, and they're covered by your agreement, by your institutional agreement with Karger, are the hybrid open access model and the gold open access model. And I will refer to this when I go through the list of journals in a little bit. Hybrid open access, a hybrid journal, is a journal that has some content that is currently still behind paywall, so behind subscription. So you still need a subscription to read those articles. And then a part of the other part of the journal is that has article in open access. So it's a mix of the two. It's a hybrid. So with the deal that Karger has in place with your institution, you'll be able to publish open access in those journals and read also the content that is behind paywall. The gold open access model instead is a journal that has exclusively open access articles. So that journal will be entirely available for the world to read, for everybody to read without having a subscription. Why is this important? Well, first of all, more people have access to your research. So the more you publish open access, the more likely is your research to be cited by everybody else in the world in your field of research. So this is a great opportunity for you to try this out, see what journal fits best within the Karger portfolio, and take advantage of this and publish with us. You can see here some guidelines for the open access submission process, and then Nico will touch upon that as well. And some data around what we're doing around the world with open access. As I said, we have over 30 journals that are completely open access. We have 11 transformative journals, which are journals that are hybrid, so they're still subscription content and open access, but we are gradually making open access more and more wider, so that at the end there will be no more subscription content, but it will become a fully open access journal. So when we reach a 75% of content that is open access, then the journal will become all open access, available to everybody. Like the agreement we have with the Manipal Academy, we also have other 200 agreements around the world in over 30 countries, and we're really, really happy that we are participating to the open access movement. So more information on this little file you can download. If you like, we can send the link to you directly so you can download it. Now, to discover what kind of journals you can read and you can publish in with Karger, you can go back to our little menu here on what we offer, and we can go in journals. And here you will find all our publications in a list if you go on browser journals. And you will be able to filter the type of journals by subject area. So you can just focus on the areas that are relevant to you. So for example, let's say dermatology, and you should be able to load the content. Sorry, my connection is not great, so I hope it will load. There you go. And then here you can see all the journals we publish in dermatology. Okay, then your funder's mandate says that you need to publish only in gold open access journals. Okay, so how do we do this? We can just filter this and just select those journals that are gold open access. So you can find it here. Otherwise, you just click this and you can find the journals that are hybrid, so they still have some subscription content. But let's say for the sake of argument, let's just leave all of the dermatologist journals here, and then you can see very quickly, you can see what kind of impact factor they have, the site score. You'll be able to also get into the author guidelines very quickly. So these are like the main information you will find for this journal. If you decide to go within the journal page, you'll be able to find all the content you need very quickly here. So you can find everything from the journal metrics to the current issue. You can find some articles that are being chosen by the editors. You can connect with us. So everything you need to know. And then here on the right, you can see some other little menus. So you can see all the stuff pertaining to content for that journal, and also all the details. So you're interested in the editorial board for this journal, you click there, and you'll be able to see everybody from the editor-in-chief to, for example, the editorial board members. So very useful to know, very useful to see for every journal that you have. Very important here, it's the guidelines. So the guidelines are what really allows you to send your article in to publish it in the right journal and in the right format. We always recommend that you go through the guidelines for each journal to know exactly how to send your article in and what section it should be in, or what kind of aim and scope your article should be in when applied to that perfect journal. Just because we don't want your article be rejected, so you have higher chance to get considered for publication if you send an article after reviewing the guideline of the journal. So you can see the aim and scope here. You can see the sections. For example, for dermatology, there are quite a few of them. So, if you are writing an article about tattoo and body art, that is the right section to pick at time of submissions. Also very useful, we have the various article types that we publish in that journal. And so you can see from the obvious research and review articles, we also have all the other parts, the other formats you can send in. And the cool thing is that you can download the templates to use to send in your paper, so that you just need to copy and paste in the right template, so that when the editors receive it, it's more likely they're just going to go through it without having to go back and forth with you and wasting time. So that's very important. And here you'll be able to find the submission, and there you can just click on it, and there will be a checklist, again reminding you of the guidelines, and then it will take you to the submission portal where you'll be able to submit your paper, which is very user-friendly, that portal, so I won't go through it. It's very easy to use and navigate. So since we're talking about publishing, one last thing that I wanted to mention, it's the campus courses that your institution has kindly provided you with. It's called Campus. It's a platform and includes 10 courses on how to draft, review, and publish your paper, choose the right journal, avoid rejection, and also how to promote your paper after it's been published. These courses are really cool. They're like 1 hour long each, and you will receive a certificate of completion at the end of it. So I truly recommend it for you to just go and use the platform as much as you can. You can stop the videos whenever you want, and then there will be a little quiz at the end so you can get your certificate. You will have a dedicated link that will take you to this page. And from here, you will have to create a My Karger account. And if you already have it, you simply log in into it. You log in, and you'll be redirected to the campus platform. Here it is, to the dashboard. And you can see here the courses at your disposal. You can see the overview, you can see how far you've been, or like you've arrived in the course, like how much you've seen of it. So these are the courses, the title of the courses you'll be able to find on the platform. There's also a very interesting one on how to decide on preprints and open access. So if you want to know more, yeah, so I really suggest and recommend to have a look. You can see here a preview of the course. the learning objectives, and you just, you know, don't look at the pricing because everything is being included in your by your institution. So you just can start the course and get your certificates. I will recommend to check this out and access campus only via the dedicated link that we have created for you. We can share this in the chat later, but we also can share it with the material at the end when we send around the email asking you for your feedback. I'm sure Manish will also you know, share the link with you in the future. So just make sure you check this out. Okay, this is all for me. I will leave now the word to Nico. And he will take you through the publishing process and what you can expect when you send your paper to Karger. Nico?
Thank you very much, Fran. That was an amazing coverage of all of the elements. Thank you for showing also in detail the courses, the submission. This is fantastic. My name is Nico. I'm a publication manager at Karger, and I'm going to talk to you about how to maximize scholarly impact with Karger. I'm going to talk to you about scientific publishing, peer review, and also ways to increase the visibility of your article for impact. So let's start and set the basics. Scientific publishing, you're all aware, it is about publishing lab or desk-based research. Scientific papers are communication modules in the community. They are reports written in a certain format and standard of language. And they are reports of studies or updates, for example, review articles, reported in a scientifically, technically, and ethically sound manner. And it is important that scientific content abides by certain rules to make sure that we observe and respect certain principles and values as ascertained through the peer review. And as Fran explained, there are different publishing models. Broadly speaking, we have the subscription journals and open access, and these fundamentally change the availability of the article to the community, the accessibility of the article. So looking at peer review, I'm sure most of you are familiar about what it is. Essentially, it is the process through which scrutiny is applied to a scientific article before it is published. There are different perceptions around the peer review. Very often it is seen as a pure challenge. Essentially, though, a good peer review also has, in addition to the challenge and the scrutiny, through that you get the improvement of an article. So this is also a very constructive process. The typical review process is shown on the right. Is shown here on the right, where it starts with the submission of the manuscript by the author, then the editor who handles the manuscript invites reviewers, and then the authors receive feedback from the reviewers, and then they have to change the article according to the feedback, and then the article is eventually accepted or rejected. And this basic structure comes in comes in different flavors. Let's say we have the open peer review, where all the parties involved are visible to one another. We have the single blind review and the double blind review. In the case of Karger, we have the single blind, which means that the authors cannot see the names of the reviewers, but the reviewers can see the names of the authors. Now, at Karger, we follow this basic principle. So essentially, the author, the review starts by the author submitting the manuscript. Then the manuscript is received at the editorial office that performs some preliminary checks. And once we see that what we received is actually a scientific manuscript and fulfills basic criteria, it is then handed over to the editor-in-chief, who also has a first look to see if the manuscript is good to continue or if it can be rejected without review at this stage. So if the manuscript is fine, then it can continue in peer review. Then the editor-in-chief assigns the manuscript to a handling editor, and the handling editor invites external reviewers who look at the manuscript, and they perform the hands-on review of the manuscript. They leave their feedback in the form of thorough comments, and then according to the feedback, the authors have to make changes to the article, and this is a cycle of revisions and exchange. And if after the revisions the article satisfies the criteria set by the reviewers and it fulfills their feedback, then the manuscript is accepted. Otherwise, the manuscript at that point, after the peer reviews, can be rejected. So overall, you can find more information about the peer review on our website. I've got the address here at the bottom. And on that page, you will be able to find different elements related to the peer review, including the process itself, the different types of peer review. It's important to read about the conflicts of interest to understand also what we do, what the rules we have in place to try to shield the process and protect it from any influences from participants. In this regard, specifically the reviewers and the editors. And also we have guidelines for reviewers and how to become a reviewer. So overall here, the peer review aims to ensure the validity and accuracy of the content and to ensure the quality and transparency of the process itself. There are different layers related to the peer review. Quickly to go through, first of all, we want to make sure the content is of a certain quality and standard. The stronger manuscript, the more impact it's going to have naturally. And we want to make sure that we abide by rules and standards in the publishing industry, especially relating to research integrity and ethics. Karger is a member of COPE, and we're also aligned with the specific standards. For example, with case reports guidelines that describe what the case reports should essentially look like. And reproducibility is very important, and we endorse the MDAR framework. You can find more information about these elements on our website. We have a dedicated page about publication ethics. And the take-home message here is that we take research, integrity, and ethics very seriously in all steps of the generation of a scientific report, of a scientific paper. So this involves the generation of the data stage. So for example, we want to make sure that there is always consent by patients involved in a clinical trial, for example. And this extends to the report itself. We check to make sure that there is no image manipulation and no plagiarism. And when it comes to the publication part, we want to make sure that there are no things, for example, like citation manipulation or conflicts of interest. This is what the webpage about the publication ethics and editorial policies looks like, and I have on the left here all the different items that you are welcome to visit and read more about. The key statement here, and this is what I wanted to highlight in this slide, is that a manuscript that is not aligned with our ethical criteria can be rejected. And just in case you wondered, I put here some typical reasons why a manuscript may be rejected. Of course, there can be other reasons, but typically it is a matter of scope. So it is important that the article is in scope within what the journal welcomes in terms of thematics. An article can be rejected if it is not a substantial contribution to the field, if it is poorly written, if the methods and study presented are not well justified, and importantly, it can be rejected if the authors fail to address the reviewer comments. You can, if you want to learn more about how to prepare a manuscript, we have, as Fran presented, courses, and specifically the campus courses, the Karger campus courses. There is a dedicated page for that, and I've put here some examples, so you can see that you can pick some. We have a series of nice courses that you can watch to learn how to prepare different manuscripts. Now, you might wonder, so who reviews my manuscript? We want to assure you that we have great names of editors on our journals, and when they perform the peer review, there is a great degree of confidence that we will invite the most appropriate people in the field to act as reviewers. So we have a certain number of criteria. So reviewers are should be and are qualified. They should have knowledge and expertise in the field, matching the topic of your manuscript. The reviewers must be critical and constructive, and we expect that they will leave a substantial and thorough set of comments as part of their feedback. We want to make sure that they are available, that they have time for it, which means that the authors will not wait too long in the peer review. And we want, above all, to make sure that, and this is the heart of the peer review, that the reviewers are objective. We want to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest, and the reviewers can be impartial in providing their opinion. Now, in terms of research ethics, we want to make sure that they are aligned with our editorial policies, and that they communicate clearly their feedback to the authors. And finally, we want to make sure that overall the reviewers are aligned with the journal publication criteria. In case you are interested, you are also welcome to visit our website and look at our at the pages that we have about the reviewers. We have a guidelines where you can see what exactly the reviewers are meant to use as criteria when they review different parts of a scientific paper. So this is all online, and you are welcome if you want to go and see what we ask the reviewers to do. And again, to complement your understanding about the peer review process, and now looking from the perspective of the reviewer, and also if you might want to act as a reviewer at some point, we also have a series of courses on how to perform peer review, and these are on our Karger page about courses, and the address is the one indicated at the bottom. So now I have a question that I would like to ask. So the question is, how do you decide where to publish?
If you'd like to specify anybody that wrote like the select other, if you want to let us know in the chat, that would be great, just out of curiosity.
That's a great idea, Fran. Thank you. Okay, about 2 out of 3 people have voted. I'll wait a bit longer. I think there is a clear trend. So the vast majority of people say that they would decide on the basis of journal impact factor. Thank you very much for your participation in this question. So this is also a great introduction to the next part that I wanted to focus on, which is impact and visibility. And yes, the journal impact factor it's the #1 criterion in the academic community in choosing a scientific journal. The impact factor is granted and calculated by Clarivate Analytics. There are ways that we can enhance the visibility of articles. The primary criterion to have a good impact, a high degree of impact of an article is to have a strong article. Good articles attract a high number of citations. Now, how can we support an article organically to let it shine? So I want to expand on 3 dimensions. One is early access to the article, the other one is additional content within the manuscript, and the third one is placing the article in a stronger position by putting it within a relevant thematic context. So let's see them. So early access means that we all know that ultimately, typically in journals of a certain standard, articles will appear in PubMed after some time. So what we do at Karger to expedite this is we make sure that we make the article available online straight after article acceptance. So we have a name for these early versions. One is called Early View, and this is a version of the article that is after, it is how it looks after it's been accepted, but it is without any formatting or copy editing or typesetting. And we also have what is called Online First, which is the article in its final form, as you would see it normally in, for example, in a printed issue, with the final formatting. And in both cases, these versions are made available. We send them to the indexing platform. So we send them to Web of Science and PubMed. And there is a great advantage with Medline indexed journals. And you can see when you choose a journal you want to submit to, if you go to details on the website, you will see if it is listed in Medline. So an article published in a Medline index journal will also appear earlier in PubMed. And this represents a great advantage because an article really becomes visible to the community once it's been listed in PubMed. This is the key database. So I wanted to highlight this to show to you that yes, we also send the final form with the issue, assignment, and information to PubMed and Web of Science as well. But before we reach that stage, we also put your article online, and then it can get picked up. And as I said, for Medline indexed journals, it can get picked up by PubMed much faster. And this is a great advantage to make sure that once the peer review has been completed, your accepted article can be visible to the community earlier. The other dimension is having additional content to your in your manuscript to make sure it can be more accessible to different audiences. On the right-hand side of these 4 elements, I've put 2 elements that represent activities that we initiate on our side. These are ways that we use to highlight content, and also with the help of medical writers, and also with the help of the editors of our journals. But I want to focus on the ones on the left-hand side, which are really options to the authors. These are namely the graphical abstracts and plain language summaries, and as it is what it indicates on the label. So the graphical abstracts are visual representations of the abstracts of an article, and the authors are responsible to prepare it, and they can attach it with all of the material when they submit the manuscript. And equally, with the plain language summary, the idea is to create, alongside the abstract, the classical abstract that you know, you can have also the plain language summary, which is essentially an abstract version in a simple language without technical terms. And the idea is to make it accessible to people outside the field or even outside science to make sure that the article can be easily understood and the notions in it can be accessible to more people. And this increases the visibility and impact of your article. And I'd like to highlight here that for plain language summaries, in case you wonder, oh, how do I go about preparing one? We have a course for that. And again, if you go to Karger campus courses, we have a course specifically on how to prepare the plain language summary. So it is a nice option for the author. So when you prepare your manuscript, in my opinion, it is very much worth preparing these as well and including them in your material when you submit your manuscript. Now I have 2 questions I would like to ask the audience at this point. One is about calls for papers. Are you familiar with calls for papers? Thank you very much. So I would say about half in the audience are not familiar with it. And I have another question. Okay, and I can see the majority, about 35–38% of you say that it is that you find out about calls for participation through your institution. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's look at the calls for participation, which is about the 3rd dimension when I was talking about placing your article in the right context to strengthen its position. For those of you who are not familiar with the calls for papers, these are essentially openings, calls by the publisher for researchers to submit their manuscript to within a specific thematic unit. It is very important to remember, especially now, given your agreement with us, we have a dedicated page where you can see at any time a list of calls for papers. So, and we will also make sure to inform you through our newsletter. You are welcome to subscribe to it. We will always make an effort to inform you promptly about the availability of new calls for papers. And you can see the address here where you will be able to find the list of calls for papers by journal. And I've put here an example of what a call for papers looks like. So you have the journal, the thematic, the topic, and you also have the details about the editors and so on. And in this case, this is a very specific example where we have more than one calls for papers, and you can see that we have 5 topics indicated in one entry. But typically, you will find the topic and a bit more information about this. And by all means, if you want to participate and you have any questions, please write to us and we will give you more information. We'll bring you in touch with the editors. We'll make sure you are well informed so that when you go through the painstaking process of preparing a manuscript, you will have all the information you need to prepare it and align it with the destination that you have in mind. And why submit to an article collection? Because article collections are great vehicles to increase the visibility of an article. You will get better visibility. Someone might discover a manuscript alongside yours within the same collection and then discover your article as well, which is right next to it. And this is a great way to increase to have more citations to your article. Your research will be more visible to the community. Now I have a final question for the audience. Do you know that you can host an article collection? Okay, so about half of you have responded, and 2 out of 3 responded no, an article collection. Thank you very much for your participation. And this brings me to my final slide, which is that yes, you can host an article collection. The ingredients to put together such an editorial project is basically a topic. So if you want to host a collection, first, please approach us and tell us, I want to host a collection on X topic. Then we look to recruit editors to have at least 2 to 3 editors, and we have criteria about choosing them. So you can step forward. You can also bring along recommended names. We want to have diverse teams with editors from different countries, different institutions, to make sure we have different schools of thought represented in the core of the peer review, where the manuscript will receive scrutiny and critique. And once we have finalized the team of editors, then we will ask them to provide a list of potential contributors, which again would need to be from different countries, different institutions, to make sure that the collection will have an all-around approach to the specific topic, to make sure it, as a resource, it will be more objective and in this way stronger in the community. And typically, article collections are also open to spontaneous submissions. So in addition to asking people directly to participate, we also leave the project open on the website. So anyone who would come to the journal to submit their manuscript anyway, they can find the calls for papers and the article collections, and they can place their manuscript, they can submit the manuscript into the article collection directly. So that was it from me for today. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for participating and for your very helpful answers that help us understand. And you will be able to see in my final slide, I have the links here, where you can see guidelines for authors, the Karger courses, and the link to all of the calls for papers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you so much for this presentation. I think it was very useful, and a lot of things that we don't usually talk about, like the article collection and being able to edit it, be the editor of them. So that's really, really fascinating stuff. Thank you for letting us know. We will ask you if you have any questions for us at the moment. Obviously, we'll be happy to answer your question even after the event. You can just drop us a line, an email, get in touch via Manish as well. But yeah, let's just wait a couple of minutes to see if there are any questions in the chat. Anything that you might be curious about that we haven't covered, or any other information you might need. Anything that be useful on a paper you're already thinking about publishing. Just to remind you that obviously your institution at the moment is giving you access to all Karger journals, and also has prepaid for credit to publish in our journals in open access. Obviously the paper will have to go through peer review and everything and be selected to be published, and then your institution will check the affiliation to make sure that you're part of the institution, and then will allow the articles to be published with us. So this is how it works. Let us know also in the chat if there's anything that we haven't covered today that you would like to know more about in the future, so we can create a new event if needed, a different workshop, or just address your questions, in other ways. Okay. I don't see other questions. I think we received one before the meeting about the price of APCs, but I think that depends on the journal. And as we said, everything is visible via the submission platform that we use. So if you're curious, you can just have a look. However, as I said, your institution has prepaid for the majority of your articles to be published with us already. So if there's no other questions, I think we can close this. And then, yes, we'll circulate the video recording for you, so you can have a look whenever you need to refresh your memory, and we'll also share the other links that I've already shared in the chat. So have a look at the chat. I shared the course on how to write a plain language summary, the open access explanation fact sheet, and also the direct link to campus for the Manipal Academy researchers and users. So have a look at those, save them, and we'll circulate the rest going forward. Thank you, everybody. I think that's goodbye. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again in the next event that we organize for you. Thank you again.
Thank you again for all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Nico,
Bye-bye.
and thank you.